What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Okay. First, thank you to everybody that subscribes to the channel. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we drop videos. Also, thank you to everybody that attends the live streams, and thank you to everybody who supports the channel through the super chats, Venmo, and Patreon. All right. Errol Spence Jr. wipes out Carlos Ocampo in a way that I thought that I didn't even, well, I guess I did say it in joking earlier in the week where I said that I could see him getting, I said if Carlos Ocampo made it 8 rounds, I would be shocked. I was thinking it was going to be in 4 rounds, somewhere around there, that he would move and, do what he needed to do to get a couple rounds in. But eventually Errol Spence would catch him and he would knock him out, right? And I pretty much felt like, hey, somebody really didn't do Carlos Ocampo any favors by putting him in the ring with Errol Spence. But he being Errol Spence Jr., exceeded my expectations and knocked him out with a two punch combinations to the body. I don't think that in the one round that took place in the fight, that Errol Spence ever really landed cleanly to his head, but stopped him with nothing but body shots. One to the sternum and one to the kidney, and it was a wrap. And that just tells you, man, that everybody in the welterweight division has got to be majorly worried about Errol Spence Jr. Because, how many people are going to take those type of shots, man? How many people are going to take those type of shots? Now, the fact that Carlos Ocampo was definitely a massive underdog to Errol Spence Jr., that's one thing. However, it wasn't that it was the way that he stopped him. Those body shots, when you can lay into somebody with those type of body shots can hurt anybody, can stop anybody. And he's turning into being an absolute world-class body puncher. And that's the thing that I've been saying about Errol Spence Jr. and pretty much everybody that he will get in the ring with. It is very, very difficult to deal with somebody that has that type of attack to the body. I mean, when you can start predicting that somebody's going to knock out somebody else with body shots, man, that's telling you that, hey, that's something. And to go 12 rounds with a guy that's that fit, that is that committed to attacking you to the body, that's that strong, yeah, man, that's not a good look for your health, man. So my hat's off to Errol Spence Jr. and and to everybody in his camp. Great job preparing for this bout. I know everybody out there in Dallas is amped up. I didn't get to go to the fight, and oh man, I almost missed the fight. This is how crazy it is. I almost missed the bout because I went and got some popcorn. But I was like, no, I got to make sure that I get back for the beginning of the first round because I do not know how long this is going to last. And I was actually nervous for a little while because I had thought that Carlos Ocampo had hit Errol Spence and kind of knocked him off his square a little bit. But as I reviewed the footage, it was that Carlos Ocampo had stepped on Errol Spence's foot, and he had to kind of adjust his balance real quick. And then the announcers thought it was a punch, but right after the knockout, I ran back. I ran the tape back and watched it 3 or 4 times. It was kind of like a cuffing punch to the where he kind of missed. Ocampo missed, and then kind of pushed Errol Spence's head to the side a little bit. And he also was standing on Errol Spence's foot at the time, so that balance kind of went off. So just for that minute, there was a little bit of intrigue because I was like, okay, wow, what's going to happen? Wow, okay. Then boom, boom. Boom, boom. Actually, it was a hip shot. And the hip shot didn't really hurt him too bad, or at least it didn't look. I know he felt it. But then that uppercut to the sternum. I mean, I think that thing I couldn't quite see the angle, but I think it was right on his diaphragm. And then right to the diaphragm, or excuse me, a left uppercut to the diaphragm, and then a right hook to the kidney. And that was all she wrote. He tried to get up and he just couldn't straighten out. Carlos Ocampo couldn't straighten out, had to bend back over, and there you go, man. That was it. Now Errol Spence got past his mandatory. So you know what? We know what's next. It would be Errol Spence Jr. is aiming for the winner of the Danny Garcia Sean Porter match. And I'm telling you, man, I don't think it matters at all which of the two win that bout. If they get in there with Errol Spence Jr., they're going to lose. They're going to lose, and they're going to lose in hellacious fashion, man. Because I think this is a special fighter. And he's special with his not just his tenacity to the body, but his power to the body. As he is mastering that technique and getting more and more bouts underneath his belt with that type of physical attack, it's just going to be, man, that's just going to be a lot of trouble on guys, man. Smaller welterweights beware. Smaller welterweights beware. Because, you know, the head moves, that body's right there. That body is right there. I'm looking forward. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited. So, you know that Terence Crawford, though, has reacted with some emojis to the bout with it's 2 like kind of smirk smiley faces and 4 like tears, like laughing when he like you know, when they're laughing. 4 guys laughing real loud with tears coming out of their eyes. Now, I don't know what that's about. Either he must have been like, oh man, that's funny that dude couldn't get up. Because I gotta admit, it was like, wow, really? This dude got up, tried to get back up, gave out a little scream, folded back over, man. But you know, hey, just like the case is with Terence Crawford and Jeff Horn, you know, this is what Errol Spence Jr. was supposed to do. He took care of his business against the guy the way he's supposed to take care of the business. Without a doubt, the little kid was overmatched. I don't have any issue. I don't have any issue with people saying that. It was, you know, the guy is who the guy was, you know. But still, he did what he's supposed to do. And for you to knock out guys with body shots, like, hey, that's pretty much kind of what looked like the Julius Ndongo knockout, right? Where Julius Ndongo got hit with a whopper body shot by Terence Crawford and got laid out. So, you know, it is what it is, man. Now, as far as the next steps, again, for Errol Spence Jr., I'm definitely looking forward to the winner of Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. Personally, I think that the winner of that bout, more than likely, is going to be Danny Garcia. I just think that Danny Garcia has a better timing. I think that he has the better fundamentals. And he is like pretty much like Errol Spence Jr. said. He's somebody that you just do not expect. You know, that when you don't expect him to win, he pulls it out. You know, now there's been a couple of times where with Danny Garcia, I thought that he didn't win and he wound up pulling it out, like Mauricio Herrera and Lamont Peterson. But I just have a feeling, man, that he'll be able to pull it off against Sean Porter. But when I say that, I mean, I'm kind of like 52-48, 51-49, that type of split. Now, but if Danny Garcia gets in with Errol Spence, man, I'm more like 70-30, 80-20, might be 90-10, right? Because I just can't see. I think that Danny Garcia is going to get hurt. I think Sean Porter is going to wind up getting hurt. This kid is just, I mean, he's just a beast, man. Now, I actually was fortunate enough today to have an interview with Errol Spence. Thank you very much, sir, for coming to the channel. And he predicted what was going to happen in the bout. He said that he didn't have any intention on making it, on this going to the judges. That he intends he's going to be patient. He was going to walk him down. You know, he was going to look for his spots and he was just going to break him down. And it just so happened that he wound up breaking him. He didn't break him down. He just flat out broke him. So, hey, man down, that was the plan. That's what's up. Amped about it. I think that he is the number one welterweight. I think that show, I can't say if that, that solidified it, him being the number one welterweight, because I think it was already that was the case before the fight, before the bout started. But for me, there's against a guy like Carlos Ocampo, there's a bunch of stuff that could have went wrong. And Errol Spence showed, number one, fighting in front of his hometown fans, for the first time in a long time. I do believe he had some bouts earlier in his career that were in Dallas, but in a championship bout, his second title defense, to be at home, he's got this one thing you could tell about this bout with Errol Spence today was that there was just a lot more. There was just a lot more to it. It was a lot more everything. All 15,000 people that were in that arena were there to see Errol Spence Jr. You had Jerry Jones was in the house to see him. You had Dak Prescott. You had other, Michael Irving. A whole lot of people that him being a kid from Dallas, grew up looking up to. My understanding, he's also a Texas football player, which says a lot about him, man, because them boys in Texas football in high school ain't no joke. He had to have been a serious athlete to do that. But anyway, just to have all of that pressure around him and still be able to stay focused, I'm sure he did more interviews for this bout than he had ever done before. He's probably walking around when he can't go outside of outside to the store without being recognized in Dallas. Just all that hometown pressure that was on this guy, and he handled it, and he came out and stopped this dude in the first round, like Mike Tyson style. Except for I don't know if Mike Tyson ever knocked the dude out with body shots. He was more like a headshot guy, but he stops him with body shots. That's all you could have asked for that's all you could have asked for from Errol Spence Jr. And my hats go off to him. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about him. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the welterweight division. I'm excited for boxing because this kid, and I will say about Terence Crawford as well, and well, I would love to say this about Keith Thurman, but I don't think it's the case with Keith Thurman, at least the way that he's acted. That these guys, if all the promotional stuff can be put to the side or can be worked through, that they will face one another. And there's a reasonable path or a realistic path for the two to face each other, which is Errol Spence Jr. fights the winner of of Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. I have to believe that the way that these things are going and the star that's rising for how Errol Spence Jr.'s star is rising, and he is, to use the corny phrase that so many people are using, is the A side. Like now, when he gets into negotiations with Danny Garcia, it's Errol Spence Jr. that is the quote unquote A side of that scenario. He's the guy with all the momentum in his career. He's the guy that has all the backing, has all the excitement behind his name. The one that is starting to creep up on pound for pound lists. I think ESPN might have him in the top 10 pound for pound. I think he might be at the number 5 spot. You got articles coming out in boxing scene talking about how he's, a rare American draw. I mean, when you can start pulling in 15,000 people in Texas, and also now that in his next bout that the same thing is going to happen because he satisfied the needs of everybody in the arena, except for, I guess, people who wanted to see a long boxing match. I mean, it gets all the better. Now so I can clearly see him getting that bout between Sean Porter and Keith and Danny Garcia, because that's where the money is. That's the big money bout. And quite honestly, man, I think about against with Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. If it's Danny Garcia, I think that could very well be a pay-per-view fight. Now, I don't want to be one of these guys that, I don't want to pay for the pay-per-view. Like, I'm not in a rush for myself to have to pay more money. But as far as getting fighters into the ring, being able to earn, I think Errol, I don't know how much money he's making. I won't count his pockets, but I assume that it's well into the $2-3 million. He's going to want to get up to $10 million to be a $10 million dude, and being in Texas and being on that. If he can get like the Mexican fan base behind him, and I can't imagine that he wouldn't be able to get the Mexican fan base behind him because of the way he fights. Now, I've had a lot of really good conversations with people, Mexican boxing fans, who talk about how they really do like fighters who exchange punches, guys that come in there and really, show, some real real aggression. Well, that's the type of guy that Errol Spence Jr. is. So I think he is like right in line to be able to get that fan base behind him, and he's fighting in Texas. Right, and Texas is, formerly portion of Mexico. So if he's popular in that area of the country, he will definitely be popular in the Midwest, popular out in New York. I'm sure he'll start, pulling some international appeal. That type of fanfare around him can definitely pull in, Danny Garcia and Sean Porter and saying, oh, all right, man, I'm going to get a big payday. I might get my biggest payday going in there against Errol Spence, when that used to not be the case. It was like, all right, well, when Errol Spence Jr. comes along a little further, or whatever the excuses were, Keith Thurman, when he was like, yeah, young buck, don't worry, I see you, young buck. At this point in time, there is no more young buck. With the exception maybe of Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. has completely stolen taken the spotlight from that PBC side of the block. And by that, I mean the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA. Keith Thurman now has to recognize that, because Keith Thurman is now the B-side. I hate saying it, man. I hate saying it because that's just the vernacular is so set now. But he has less leverage than Errol Spence Jr. does in making those fights. And that's why I loved what Errol Spence Jr. had to say leading up to it, where he was saying, look, I'm the man at 147. I don't have to send out any messages to anybody else. They got to send messages to me because I'm the man. And I think that is the case, that he's firmly established himself as being the man at the welterweight division. Now, there just happens to be, de facto 2 welterweight divisions. One that is where there's 3 belts, and one where there's another belt. Similar to the heavyweights and the situation with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, where the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO was centered over there in Europe, and the WBC is out here in the United States. Well, in when the welterweight division, it's that the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF are over here with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, and Showtime, and the WBO is with ESPN and Top Rank. So if Errol Spence, and I believe when Errol Spence gets through the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, when he gets those 3 belts together, then you have a situation where and especially if the bouts between Keith Thurman and the bouts between Danny Garcia, I'm not sure if if Sean Porter in and of himself is like paid, not because of his skill. I don't know if that's pay-per-view, but not because of his skill, just because Sean Porter, of all those guys, have the least firmly developed fan base. I think that Danny Garcia out there in New York and in Philadelphia has a more well-established, Puerto Rican fan base and, Northeast United States fan base, where Sean Porter doesn't seem like Sean Porter really has a home, right? And I think Keith Thurman has big enough a name, having been the unified champion, where, if Errol Spence fights Danny Garcia and beats Danny Garcia, and then he can move into a bout with Keith Thurman after Keith Thurman gets 1 or 2 in, then hey man, we can have that side locked down. I don't see anybody beating Terence Crawford for that WBO strap. And then eventually, if we can get those on pay-per-view, the 2 of those guys can get together and make it happen. So, anyway, so it's been a very good night. It was a very, very exciting 1 round of boxing with Errol Spence and Ocampo. I did enjoy, while it lasted, what is his name? Javier Fortuna and Granados bout. I could have kept that Moise Flores and guy, I forget what and Roman. You could have kept that fight, but anyway, it is what it is, man. Much respect to the man down promotions and the state of Texas, man. Your boy did it, and with that, I'm out. Peace.